Okay, contrast. Can you work out contrast on a phone app without any contrast clipping test patterns, right? You don't have access to the Spears and MUNSIL disc, you don't have a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player or anything like that, and you're trying to figure this stuff out. You don't have any patterns or anything like that. What can I do? Well, first off, all you need is just one pattern, and it's not even a pattern really, or what I would consider a test pattern. You just need something that shows 100% white, right? How you can do this is on a PC at least, and I'm sure Mac and wherever has this as well. So if you go to Paint, this is on Windows 11, but on Windows 10 you can do the same thing. Come to, I'm not really familiar with this on Windows 11, but let's see if we can do this. Alright, well, you can choose your size of the image, right, with pixels. So I don't want a 1080p, I have a 4K display. It doesn't make any difference with a white pattern like this, but let's do it anyway. Right, so now this is 4K, right? The dimensions of this image here, which is pure 100% white, is 4K. Okay, so we're going to save 4K white. Okay, now we have a 100% white test pattern. This is 100% white. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is using a photo editor like this, BFunky. And now this is white already, but I still want to show you how this works. Right? So this can be any image that you have. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a 480p image. It doesn't matter. You can scale this if you want. So put the image on here, use color overlay options, then change your color, right, to any color that you want. Let's just say I wanted 100% red. Well, there it is. Right now we want one, you can change the color here. I want 100% white, which is 6 Fs basically in the hex code. Right, I now know I have 100% white. Then what you do is you bring the size of the image to here. You could scale it as well, to resize. Let's 2160p by 3840. Should have done this first. Okay. Let's see if we're fitting correct. Here we are, we're over, it doesn't matter. We save the image. Save it as a JPEG because it doesn't matter with the white, but you know, still. 4K image from BFunky. Okay. Alright, so two ways there. That you have a way of saving, I don't know why that's saved, probably in downloads, but you have two ways there of saving a pattern, what I would call it, at 100% white. Okay, so what's so special about 100% white? So I was just thinking about this the other day. I'm like, is there a way to actually do this? And there actually is. And it's really cool. It's actually really simple. So when you think about contrast and white, the highest, what am I going to say? The white point of your TV cannot get any brighter than a certain point, right? Once your TV in the mode, whatever mode you're in. Now, if you went to vivid mode, sure, that white point now is going to change and you're going to pump out a lot more brightness there, sure. But let's just stay within the mode. Let's be in an accurate mode, a film mode or a cinema mode, whichever you have on your TV, right? And I want you to raise the contrast up to 100. Download this app. And what you'll see is, so this is this app, it's called Light Meter. I guess it's free. I don't know if it's a free version or whatever. But this is the main menu. And most of these lux meters, type meters, you can only measure with the sensor, and the sensor is only on the front of the phone, which means you then give up your front display. You can't see the display anymore, and you have to put it on the TV, right? I don't like that. I want to see what I'm doing. So this app, you can use the camera, the actual camera itself, to measure light, and this is one of the reasons why I really like this. So I'll put this link in the description. So this was just like, it came to my mind, like thinking about brightness and how much contrast that you could get, and that the white point will only ever reach a maximum at a certain point. So I'm using this on a Hisense 65-inch. I think it was like $500 to $600 TV. It's okay. So we went to the camera meter section, and what I noticed was, as soon as the default contrast on the TV is 40, right? And honestly, that's probably about right. You know, it's probably about right. So what I did was, I put the contrast up to 100. In theory, if their setting is correct at 40, and I set mine to 100, the contrast should, this number here, it's this number here that I'm worried about, the FC and the Lux. They both work interchangeably, but I was just looking at this FC number, right? At 100, the number is maxed out, but in theory, this number is actually maxed out at 50. If I put the contrast to 50 on my TV, this number goes to 628. It's completely maxed out, because as soon as the TV gets to the highest part of the white point, the TV does not have the power to produce even more white. That is as white and as bright as that image can be in this mode that we're in. Again, in another mode like Vivid, it might go higher. Forget that for now, because we're just worried about trying to figure out the contrast of the TV. And again, we're doing this with an app, not a test pattern. And we're doing it with just looking at a 100% white test pattern. That's all we're doing. Can it be done? I think it can. How accurate this is I think is actually quite good. It's close. So what I did was, I kept lowering the contrast, and I got to 60, and I was still at 628. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Got to 50, and we were still at 628. The number was not changing. I was always producing the same amount of white, no matter what. Yeah, the image might have been clipped, you know, we might have been way clipped, but the actual white point never changed. It never changed that value whatsoever. So then I got to 50, and then I got to around 45, right? 45, we were still at 628. So we had not changed. As soon as I went down to 44, this number changed. This number changed to 588. That means that 45 on the TV is its absolute maximum white point, right? The default, again, is 40. So we're actually not too far off here. Now, one thing you'll notice as well with clipping patterns, the people that actually have access to them, is sometimes, even though you've come down just at the right point, say this TV is actually 44, you just lose the absolute maximum power in the white point, right? If you said to me, look, I want to calibrate the TV to 45, which would be absolute maximum whiteness, you can. Again, I haven't done this yet, so I haven't actually calibrated the TV to the absolute maximum white point. I think it would be interesting to do it, because I just found out this yesterday, and I was like, I think this can work. And a lot of this was like, I was thinking about this in my mind before I even found the app. So I thought to myself, I need to find an app that can do this, and I can visually see it. So Lux Light Meter is also good. The problem is, again, it's a sensor-based one, and you have to put it on the screen. I can't see it. So you basically have to hold it on the screen, maybe for 10 seconds. It's collecting light, But with this one, I set it up on my stand on my TV, because I can connect my phone to like a little stand as well, and this was always absolute. I could see it, and it was much easier. So that's one of the reasons why I did it. So yeah, very, very interesting that you could really, that a phone could tell you the contrast by just looking at 100% white. Now again, with clipping, when you reach the clipping limit, right, you're at 100%. I've done this in the past, I like to be a little under that. And the reason is because we're at 100% white now. 90% white, how white do you want that to be? There should be a difference there. So I'm always a little worried, like with clipping, about the difference in gradients that I go down, and how close is like 80 and 90 to that 100. Is there breathable room there? You know, and again, this is really kind of still in theory. I'm really still testing this. If anyone else has this camera app, meter, and they're willing to test it and just calibrate their TV after doing the contrast this way, I think I'm going to within the next few days, just to see how it is. Does it look good? But again, it shows that the phone is very accurate compared to the default setting or state that it's in, which was 40 contrast. We're only 40 clicks off, so they allowed essentially for 4 clicks worth of more dynamic headroom, you could say. They didn't want the TV to clip completely out, maybe at say 45, right? They allowed that room there. So I would almost say though that 44 is about right, because 44 you actually lose light compared to 45. And it's always at the same point. I went back, I was like, all right, let me try this again. I went up all the contrast all the way to 100 and kept going down, and it was always 44. So 44 contrast on this TV was where I always bang lost light. Only by a little bit, but you just lose it. So I just thought that was really interesting. I just think some of these apps are actually really fun to play around with. I downloaded about 10 different apps because, like I said, I wanted to use the camera itself. I didn't want to use a sensor on the camera. I didn't want to do that because, like I said, I think it's difficult to use, really. But one thing you can do with a sensor is a lot of the sensors measure maximum light. So what you can do is reset the phone, hold the camera there. I would do 10 seconds because it's really getting an average then, or it's allowing the TV to always see the maximum amount of light in 10 seconds. And you take it off and see what the reading is, right? You can do that. So the only thing is that I did that twice and I got different readings. With this app, I got the same reading all the time. So I want something that I can depend on. And how accurate this is kind of immaterial. The fact is that it always gave me the same reading, whereas Lux Light Meter, it was like 2 different measurements. I was like, I don't like that. So, yeah, kind of still in theory right now, this idea that you can actually measure contrast and calculate contrast with a phone app. I'm sure there's better things you could probably buy on, say, Amazon, or obviously a colorimeter would actually be able to really tell, be very accurate in the amount of light that it could see, and you could just go down on the contrast and you'd be like, yep, that's the clipping point, right? Find out what the clipping point is on your TV, then is the default, how close is it to the default, right? Like OLEDs, for example, I can't imagine that they'd be too far off on an OLED, because OLED is so much more absolute. So yeah, just an idea. So yeah, I'll leave this link in for this app in the description. and I'd like some other people to try it. I normally watch Plasma TV's for Gaming channel, because he's always calibrating his TV with different methods, and I'd almost like him to take a look at this and see what he thinks. That, you know, can you work out the contrast on your TV by just looking at 100% white and using this app? That's it. That's all you have to do. And like I said, the best thing really to do is don't go to, you don't need to go to 100, but you can, just to see, hey, is there any change in the contrast or the amount of white coming out on the screen? Like, does your contrast lower at 70 and the TV was actually set to 50? You know, I don't really know that. I probably should have tested this on a bunch of other TVs just to get an idea of how close to the default settings are they. But yeah, now seeing this, I think like Hisense having their contrast set to 40 is honestly probably about right. But I'm going to try a calibration on 44 and see how it calibrates. I want to see the difference between 90% and 100%. I just want to know if there's enough room there and play there to make them look different. But what does this do is you just gain more white output, right? Potentially more dynamic range on any of your TVs. Just absolute bleeding edge, as much brightness as you could get. Then this would be the way to do it. Then what you do after that, obviously you've set your color up correctly, your black levels up correctly, and things like that. Now what you do is then you calibrate with the phone app, the other phone app, color temp meter, yeah, the color temp meter app. You calibrate with that, and then see what the results are. If you're one of these people that really want a bright display, look, I want the brightest display possible without clipping, then this is one app to do that, 100%. And again, the reason this is useful is because the TV cannot go brighter than its absolute maximum white peak brightness. That's the limit. Again, in whatever TV mode you're in, that would be your limit. Raising contrast does not give you more white point. It's impossible. The TV is capped out now. That's its limit. Now this app is a way to find that point out. And this again was something I've been thinking about over the last few days. I just needed to find an app to kind of prove this. And though I've only done it on one TV, I think this can work. This idea can work. You know, you don't have access to clipping patterns. You don't know any of that. You can make your own white point, 100% white test pattern. You know, this is easy. So, yeah. Very quick video today. Just wanted to get it out there. Next few days I'll calibrate with this method, see how it turns out. You know, I haven't done it yet. The big thing right now is getting the time. You know, I've got work and stuff like that and things to do, and all I keep thinking about is calibrating TVs and trying to come up with new methods of, you know, trying to, you know, find out white points and the contrast and things like that. I've got all these ideas coming through my head. Just don't have the time to do it. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them. I'm answering as many questions as I can. Well, I'm answering everything. So yeah, really appreciate you watching, and have a good day. Bye.